Good morning and welcome to Share Talk. Today we have a little bit of a different guest. We're going to give you an education on general data protection regulation. And here to tell us all about it is Azar Ali Shad, who is the co-founder of eComply.io, who has a software solution to help businesses become compliant. Hello and very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for inviting me here.
And I guess, can you give us a general overview of what is general data protection regulation?
Yeah, so General Data Protection Regulation is a regulation on data protection, and this is the first kind of data protection law that is after 16 years in the market, and the law basically protects consumers and European residents, protecting their interests and their data against companies who are using it, who have to use it properly to protect it, and so that companies do not lose the data very easily. Also, it's there to warn companies to not misuse the data in inappropriate ways. And so this is the general data protection in small gist.
And what does your software do to help companies become compliant?
Yeah, so before helping and understanding my software, you need to understand that general data protection has a lot of requirements, and these are a lot of complex requirements. You need to make a governance structure, understanding who actually holds the data, and how do you use the data, and who actually you share the data with. So eComply is basically a software helping you to create the documentation, right? So law itself is just a text, but the basic thing which is there in the law is that you need to go through certain requirements article by article, and that just gets too complicated. So what eComply does it, we easily make it simpler for small business owners or SMEs, we say in Germany as well. So basically you go through the requirements step by step with eComply. So for example, you first of all go with governance structure, then you change your privacy policy. You also need to hire a data protection officer, so you need to have a documentation for that. And then you need to know what processes you have. For example, recording this video is one of the processes because I'm a European resident. So this is one process, but a company has a lot of processes. You are coming out of coming inside the door from the main door, you have a CCTV there. That's another process because you're recording my data there. So there are a lot of processes in a company, and you need to know how do you share the data with, whom you share the data with, who is responsible for the data, and eventually, once you know the processes, you can actually go ahead and understand the risk related to it. And you can understand, you can have a contract with each company. And so basically there are a lot of requirements, and we give you a simple checklist, kind of a modular based software that can help you go through the whole checklist, and you get compliant with our software. And the only thing the external help you need is a lawyer who can change a contract. So eComply basically does 80% of the work, and 20% is this legal requirements, changing the policies there.
So your software would help a company know whether they're compliant or not, because a company might think they're compliant, but they may not be unless they go through this checklist. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Basically, every company right now thinks that it's compliant, but it's not. And so the software actually tells you what you have actually missed, and it gives you an overview that how you can actually become compliant, or what you have actually missed to become completely compliant.
I see that there's a 14-day free trial on your website. So during that 14-day free trial, is that where they can check to see if they are compliant?
Yes. So basically 14-day trial is to actually understand if they need a software like this, because in a software industry, you need to try it before actually use it. So 14 days is just to get you some feeling that this is software that you really need, or maybe somebody have advised you and maybe have advised you wrongly, but when you go to the software and use it for free, so you really feel value out of it. And that's why 14-day free trial is to make you understand that why the software is useful to you. And so the 14-day trial is specifically to make them understand that this is a free trial, to actually understand how the software can help them. And we also give support as well. So if they have any specific questions and they are not sure about it, so we can answer that, or if they get in between they're bump in the road, and so we also help them with that as well.
And your software, does it work for small, medium, and large businesses, or is there a segment that it works best for?
So general data protection regulation is actually addressed to everybody. what we came up with was that the large corporations are too big. And large corporations, I mean the company that has more than 50,000 employees. This software is not for more than 50,000 employees company, because 50,000 employee company has a complex data structures, and they would be having many lawyers in there, and they will probably be using a standard system. But this software is actually for companies from 10 employees to 5 to 10,000 employees, because the more you add users in your system, the more you're able to use it. So it's not standard for just SMEs. We target SMEs because we think that they would require the most help, but the software is actually for everybody until 10,000 employees.
So I understand that the fines, if you are not compliant, can be anywhere up to 20 million euros or 4% of the previous year's worldwide income or turnover. So therefore, your software could potentially save a client a lot of money if they are not compliant, and just by using it, they could save by checking out to make sure they are.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thought. I just want to give you an understanding how the fines will go through. So what happened is first, in Germany we have like 16 data protection authorities. So those 16 data protection authorities are currently evaluating the multinational companies, the companies that are too big. But once they have evaluated that, they will go to the medium and small enterprises as well. And so let's say an authority will come to you. You say, well, we got a complaint, or we want to check if you are compliant or not. The first thing they want to check is that they want to ask for the documentation, and that's where our software comes. It gives you a complete report to authorities in their language, so that they can understand in their context. And so our software is basically is going to give them a complete peace of mind, because they have documentation in place. If you don't have that documentation in place, you are actually going to get fined right away. So that's a good part about that if you have a software. We recently had a customer that was going through an investment acquisition, and recently they showed our software to these due diligence companies and the lawyers, and they got a thumbs up from there. This means that they only did GDPR data protection implementation through ecomply.io, and we actually helped them with it. And they just got cleared from those lawyers, because those lawyers were external auditors. And these audits will happen each year. And eventually there will be certification as well. So our software is going to help you with those certifications as well, because you have something very significantly there in a proper processes way that you can't miss out, because we are basically best practices standard out there.
And currently, how many companies do you think are not compliant with this new GDPR regulation?
Yeah, that's a very good question, actually. So there are two reports. One is our own research, the GDPR readiness research, and there was another research by a company called TrustArc. Both of the research had one very similar experience, that more than 50% of the companies are not compliant at all. So the deadline may have passed, but deadline was a starting point of it. And if more than 50% companies are not compliant, this means that there are a lot of potential to make a lot of steps. One more thing in there which is very interesting is that when we conducted a research for specifically SMEs, many SMEs think they are compliant. And so I did a bit of back research, and I wrote them a data subject access request. This is like a customer request sending, hey, please give me my data. So I signed up for a software with a different name, or even with my own name. So I signed up to a software, and I said, hey, can you please give me my data back? And I'm Shad, and this is my data, and this is my ID card. Could you give me my data? And unfortunately, those companies who said they are compliant, they actually were not able to provide me the exact data according to Article 13 in GDPR. So that was very surprising that in my research, they said they are compliant, but when I tried to ask the data as a customer, and they were not compliant. And there are big companies out there that they think they are compliant and they are not. So I'm afraid that I think more than 80% of the companies are not compliant, and they just think they are compliant. So that's a big revelation from my side, and that's a big understanding from my side, that market is just waiting for the wait and see approach. First person has to get fined, actually, so that everybody gets to the 100%. And so that was a big revelation. That was a big surprise to me that although the fines are so huge, the companies are still doing wait-and-see approach there.
It's quite shocking that it would be over 50%.
Yeah, yeah.
So clients can go to ecomply.io
Exactly.
and ask any further questions that they need, because you have customer service reps on there, and they can either call or just look over the website and see everything. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and that was
Same
very
here.
informative for our clients. And thank you for joining us on Share Talk. Look forward to seeing you again.